is its content shifting to kind of reflect the fact?
Oh, it's recording. It's recording. Wow, 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 yippee yo, pow, pow. God, wait, I'm red on the face, God. This is God. There, God, you, God, YouTube, God, any God, listen, God, what is God? If I can need sex, God, this God. Share and like, please. Reply, share, like, reply. Family eating food, sporty family, marijuana, chicka. Listen and reply. Wait, I'm red on the face. I'm shaking my hands. My body's moving. I love you, please.
He's a bit of a weirdo. The people that you spoke to, they didn't really like him, right? So what do they think he's doing now? What do they think about the direction that he's taken in the company?
So apparently Kirienko has told employees that he wants to move VK away from the privacy politics the platform's basically become enmeshed in within Russia. But there's like a lot of concern that his appointment just kind of spells the end of VK's independence from the government. So one person I spoke to who still works at VK said they felt really sad because they wanted to be part of this global tech industry. They wanted to win Russians back from Facebook and Instagram kind of because of the platform's features and the products that they built. They don't want to have just like this victory handed to them because all the other platforms have been kicked out. And they don't want to be just a cog in a government IT machine, which is what they're worried that VK is now going to become. And there is concern that the platform will become even more willing to carry out government requests. So even though the company earned a reputation under Mail.ru ownership as extremely compliant, it did still challenge some takedown requests. So in March 2021, for example, VK refused to remove content calling for participation in protests in support of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. For that, the platform was fined $20,000. And employees and former employees I spoke to are worried that this latest change of ownership marks the end of even the smallest signs of dissent. So I think one interesting sign of that is Alexei Navalny's VK page, which had somehow managed to survive all the way through VK's history, was finally banned in March this year.
So you spoke, as part of this piece, to the former CEO of VK, Andrew Rogozov. What does
he... Oh, yes, they were saying about many international computer network, mixed codes, international technology, international scientists, international custom tradition of countries' economics, where they live, how they run the country, everything. Fuck you up, motherfucker. Listen and reply, I love you.
What do you think about the state of play now?
Yes, I think he's a really interesting character, and he kind of encapsulates the adaptability of the platform, or that the platform tried to assume. So he believes the platform had to comply with government requests under his leadership in order to grow as a business, and VK needed to grow to compete with other companies like WhatsApp and YouTube that were really popular among Russians. But to do that, it needed investment. And in a country like Russia, who's sitting on enough money to provide that kind of investment? Basically, only people who are allied with the government. So he had quite a pragmatic approach to it. Kind of, this is just business in Russia. This is how it gets done.
It's worth saying that Kirienko declined to comment for this story. So that was something that we should include. I wanted to kind of move on to obviously all the people that left VK. As you mentioned earlier, a lot of people in Ukraine, but a lot of people in Russia might be thinking, I don't want to be part of a...
Question it, is it recording? Question it, is it recording? Question it, it's recording. International Computer Network, criminals, ICC, international courts, technology, UFOs, extra news, international computer network, Australia, America. Love to be with international computer network. Love to be with, love to be more, please. News now. Reply. I love you, please.
Social media site that's so closely linked to the Russian government. The only glimmer of hope on the Russian internet seems to be Telegram, which was ironically set up by the same person as VK.
Fuck you, Kinder, fuck you. Where's the technology? Where's the technology? Where's the technology? Bring the technology. Advanced technology, please.
Can you tell us a bit more about that link and about what might happen next there?
Yeah, so I quite like this kind of weird circular nature of this story. So basically, as VK has become a more restrictive environment and kind of more reflective of the wider Russian internet, dissent has shifted to another platform, Telegram, which is run by the same person who set up VK, Pavel Durov. So it's kind of incredible that one person has had this major effect on the Russian internet. And when he left Russia, now he's thought to be in Dubai, he took the space for dissent with him, basically, to Telegram, which the Russian government actually tried and failed to block back in 2018. So since the war in Ukraine, Telegram has overtaken WhatsApp to become the top messenger in Russia, more so than VK.
It's a really fascinating story, Morgan. I'm really interested from the people you spoke to. Like, do you have a sense of what VK looks like, particularly around the war in Ukraine at the moment? Is its content shifting to kind of reflect the fact that it's now essentially more government controlled than it was before? Or are we still seeing kind of dissent and things like that on there?
So I mean, since the war broke out, there's been a new law passed in Russia which basically can convict people who spread what is deemed to be fake news about the war to up to 15 years in jail. So that's quite serious, and so obviously like companies have tried to comply with that. So that means for a company like VK, that's wiping off anything that is basically anti-war off the platform. So, I mean, there are some posts that are still up, but it seems from people I've spoken to that that's more a sense of it is quite difficult just to censor everything on a platform. But, I mean, there's also people who've had their accounts banned for posting things that are against the war. So I think it's kind of this story that was happening all the way through VK's history, just the Russian government is tightening its grip on the Russian internet. VK is also part of that internet, and so it's just becoming more and more restrictive, like the space around it.
It must be very, very difficult, and you mentioned this in the discussion that we just had, for these companies that saw themselves as sort of cosmopolitan global companies, but because of the country that they were founded in, as you say, they were kind of allied to the Russian government, or people that were close to the Russian government for funding, so now they find themselves increasingly isolated. It's a really, really good story. Do check it out on our website soon. We'll put a link to it in the show notes when we can. And if you have any thoughts on that story, maybe you're a VK user who can no longer access their profile or something like that, or maybe you've used it in the past, do let us know. podcast@wired.co.uk.
Amit, now this week you've been looking into ITER, which is to say we've got this technology, we're approaching a point where in a certain number of years we might be able to say, well, this is a feasible way to create energy. That's not the same thing as building a power plant, you know, and we already know how long it takes to build a nuclear power plant. Looking in the UK, you know, plants that have been, you know, planned for 20 years are still, you know, being built. So, you know, the question almost isn't what energy system do we have today, it's what energy system do we have in 2060, and where does nuclear fusion fit in among existing nuclear technology, among solar solar powers, and wind energy. And I suppose part of this problem is that it might end up being a great solution that maybe just turns up too late for the energy system that we have.
Exactly, and I think given the challenges, it's almost like nuclear fission isn't ideal, but we have it now and we know it works. And yes, fusion would be a lot better and cleaner and safer in its idealized form, but that idealized form doesn't exist yet. So perhaps if we kind of want the benefits of fusion with some compromise, then rolling out fission would be a better use of funds than this sort of like Hail Mary pass on fusion.
Absolutely. Well, it's a super interesting story, and our readers can head to wired.com to check out the full piece, which has a bunch of extra detail that is definitely worth reading. Now, from the future of energy to the very present of food, we had a reader write in. Catherine said they're a long-time listener and first-time emailer, so thank you for writing in, Catherine. So Catherine was talking about this story that I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, which is about how if you reduce 20% of your beef consumption, that can actually, by 2050, that might turn into a 50% reduction in terms of the deforestation rate. And Catherine wrote, you often talk about the carbon dioxide cost of beef in the global context and about habitat loss in the Amazon and Africa. And Catherine says, we've cut our beef consumption almost down to zero as a family, but what's the data on grass-fed beef raised in the UK on farms that are not cutting down virgin forests? And I think this is a super interesting and important question, because this gets into all kind of important bits about how our food is grown and also how food impacts the environment in lots of different ways. So there's obviously deforestation, which is what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, and that can happen due to cattle ranching, so you cut down trees to graze cattle on that land instead, or sometimes it's to grow crops that will go into animal feed. So you grow soy on a farm, you know, it used to be rainforest, and that soy goes towards feeding animals. So that's the kind of situation I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, and that's how beef farming can relate to deforestation. But of course, as Catherine suggests, there's this whole other part of the dynamic, which is the greenhouse gas emissions that beef production releases as well. There are some gas emissions related to land use change, but actually the main release of emissions from beef come from how that cow is grown itself. And that's basically that as cows, maybe not cats, but as cows digest grass, they burp up methane, and it's to do with the way their kind of stomach works. So actually grass grazing doesn't diminish these emissions that come from, essentially this cow just being alive. Cows produce a lot of methane while they're alive, while they eat. So the longer their cow grazes for, the worse their carbon emissions, essentially. Now, that said, grass-fed systems do have some benefits, and there are some studies that suggest in very specific circumstances, grass-fed systems can increase biodiversity and perhaps even offset some of the emissions by building soil organic matter. Although it's worth noting the evidence on this is kind of mixed. I think there's an environmental scientist called Jonathan Foley that has some quite good rules around beef. He has 3 rules. He says, eat much less of it, don't waste it, and if you do eat it, source it from farms that build soil carbon. And I think that's a really, really good rule. It's not like this form of beef is great and this form of beef is awful. It's about, if eating less is the best thing. So, Catherine, you're already doing the right thing. But if you are going to source it, try and source it from a farm that increases soil carbon. And it being grass-fed alone is not necessarily an indicator of that, because, as I said, it means they spend a lot of time burping up methane. In fact, sometimes more methane than they might do if they went into feedlots. But if you can find out where it's sourced from and find out a bit more about that farm's production, you might get an idea of how good they are in terms of their carbon footprint. Really quickly, Catherine also had a question about sheep. She said, if you send them up to a mountain where you can't grow crops for human consumption, aren't they quite efficient at turning twiggy heath into meat? And actually, this is a really, really related point, because the reason sheep have quite high emissions is they burp up methane too. They're a ruminant as well, just like cows. And so even if they're eating that heather and things like that, they're taking carbon that was locked up in plant matter and eventually burping up methane that warms the environment. And also there's kind of problems with kind of diminishing these kind of ecosystems. But I think the broader point that Catherine is getting at is, isn't it better to have animals eat stuff that humans can't eat, because it's not like we were ever going to eat that heather anyway. So from that point of view, they seem quite efficient. And I think it's intuitive, but what you have to bear in mind is that animals are a less efficient way in terms of land use from getting calories, because humans can also just grow the crops that grow on land and eat that directly. So what we could do is grow crops somewhere else in the land and then just leave the heather to grow and turn into a natural ecosystem itself. You kind of don't necessarily need sheep in that system. It's not, usually animal-based systems are not necessarily the most efficient way. And the most efficient animals are something like fish or chicken. They're a lot more efficient than sheep or cows.
That's really, really fascinating, Matt. Thanks for that. And thank you for that question, Catherine. I would encourage readers to write in with similar questions. I want to turn Matt into sort of an agony aunt for the food industry. Ask him questions about whether you can eat, what the best brand of cheese is for carbon emissions, whether a sandwich is better than a wrap. These are the questions we want. We want Matt to answer them in a new segment I'm calling Matt Reynolds' Lunchbox. Please write in.
Can't wait.
And if you have anything else to write about that's not food related, or about any of the things we talked about this week or in any recent episodes of the show, please let us know. We love feedback. podcast@wired.co.
You're listening to TED Talks Daily. I'm Elise Hugh.
Okay, this is the next one. It's 40 minutes now. Man, punch up. The lady wanted sexy, you gave it to the sexy. She said to be sporty, have music, the play, the money, the work, and everything. Go aliens. The lady like it good. Menace and good. Lifestyle the best. Lifestyle the best. Lifestyle the best. Lifestyle the best. Listen and reply. Listen and reply. Listen and reply. Sporty, love you too. Love you too. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, 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 wow. La la la. Family, because I will look after you 100%. Be my friend.
So yeah, I guess it'll be whatever people want, really, you know. So.
What sort of timeline should we be thinking about of the first models that are actually made and sold?
Well, you know, the first units that we intend to make are for jobs that are dangerous, boring, repetitive, and things that people don't want to do. And you know, I think we'll have like an interesting prototype sometime this year. We might have something useful next year, but I think quite likely within at least 2 years. And then we'll see rapid growth year over year of the usefulness of the humanoid robots, and decrease in cost and scaling up production.
Help me on the economics of this. So what do you picture the cost of one of these being?
Well, I think the cost is actually not going to be crazy high, like less than a car. Yeah.
But thinking about the economics of this, if you can replace a $30,000, $40,000 a year worker, which you have to pay every year, with a one-time payment of $25,000 for a robot that can work longer hours, doesn't go on vacation, and it could be a pretty rapid replacement of certain types of jobs. How worried should the world be about that?
I wouldn't worry about the sort of putting people out of a job thing. I think we're actually going to have, and already do have, a massive shortage of labor. So I think we will have not people out of work, but actually still a shortage of labor even in the future. But this really will be a world of abundance. Any goods and services will be available to anyone who wants them. It'll be so cheap to have goods and services, it'll be ridiculous.
And presumably it should be possible to imagine a bunch of goods and services that can't profitably be made now, but could be made in that world, courtesy of legions of robots.
Yeah. It will be a world of abundance. The only scarcity that will exist in the future is that which we decide to create ourselves as humans.
If AI were to take down Earth, we need a plan B. Let's shift our attention to space. We spoke last episode about reusability, and you had just demonstrated that spectacularly for the first time. Since then, you've gone on to build this monster rocket, Starship, which kind of changes the rules of the game in spectacular ways. Tell us about Starship.
Yes. Starship is extremely fundamental. So the holy grail of rocketry or space transport is full and rapid reusability. This has never been achieved. The closest that anything's come is our Falcon 9 rocket, where we are able to recover the first stage, the boost stage, which is probably about 60% of the cost of the vehicle, or of the whole launch. Maybe 70%. And we've now done that over 100 times. So with Starship, we will be recovering the entire thing. Or at least that's the goal.
Right.
And moreover, recovering it in such a way that it can be immediately reflown. Whereas with Falcon 9, we still need to do some amount of refurbishment to the booster and to the fairing or nose cone. So, but with Starship, the design goal is immediate reflight.
Right.
So you just refill propellants and go again. And this is gigantic. It just as it would be in any other mode of transporting.
And the main design is
say something about I've got the headphones on, right? God. I'm embarrassed. Sexy sport people. Hey, sexy sport people all around me. Sexy sport people. Sexy sport. I just wanted to fast forward it because I need to go to the next, and it's going to. Fuck it. Oh, I love you. Take care of me, please. It's my show. I love you. It's world record. They're going to create rockets that are better rockets to go out of space with spaceships, with rockets, better technology and antennas, everything, the whole lot technology, better. You never seen it before. God. Sexy people, please.
Psychologically, there aren't many people in the world who have to even think about that.
I actually don't think about that too much, but the thing that is actually more difficult, and that does make sleeping difficult, is that every good hour or even minute of thinking about Tesla and SpaceX has such a big effect on the company that I really try to work as much as possible, to the edge of sanity, basically, because Tesla's getting to the point where. Probably will get to the point later this year where every high quality minute of thinking is $1 million to impact on Tesla. So, which is insane. The basic, if Tesla's doing sort of $2 billion a week, let's say, in revenues, sort of $300 million a day, 7 days a week, it's.
If you can change that by 5% in an hour's brainstorm, those are pretty valuable. That's a pretty valuable hour.
I mean, there are many instances where a half-hour meeting, I was able to improve the financial outcome of the company by $100 million in a half-hour meeting.
There are many other people out there who can't stand this world of billionaires. Like they are hugely offended by the notion that an individual can have the same wealth as say, 1 billion or more of the world's poorest people.
If they examine I think there's some axiomatic flaws that are leading to them to that conclusion. If for sure, it would be very problematic if I was consuming. Billions of dollars a year in personal consumption. But that is not the case. In fact, I don't even own a home right now. I'm literally staying at friends' places. If I travel to the Bay Area, where most of Tesla engineering is, I stay in my, I basically rotate through friends' spare bedrooms. I don't have a yacht. I really don't take vacations. It's not as though there's that my personal consumption is high. The one exception is a plane. But if I don't use the plane, then I have less hours to work. So, our philanthropy. If you say philanthropy is love of humanity,
now just pull the camera back and just think. You're a father now of 7 surviving kids, and
well, I'm trying to set a good example because the birth rate on Earth is so low that we're facing civilizational collapse unless the birth rate returns to a sustainable level.
Yeah, you've talked about this a lot. That depopulation is a big problem, and we
civilizational collapse.
We're a father now of
existential risk with AI, love of humanity.
I like to
full entity. They are philanthropy. Tesla is a Neuralink and Boring Company are philanthropy. If you say philanthropy, the reality of goodness instead of the perception of it, philanthropy is extremely difficult. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink and Boring Company are philanthropy. If you say philanthropy is love of humanity, they are philanthropy. Tesla is accelerating sustainable energy. This is a love of full anthropy.
Right.
SpaceX is trying to ensure the long-term survival of humanity with multi-planet species. This is love of humanity. Neuralink is space. Our philanthropy is
to do something fairly spectacular philanthropically.
I think if you care about the reality of goodness instead of the perception of it, philanthropy is extremely difficult. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and Boring Company are philanthropy. If you say philanthropy is love of humanity, they are philanthropy. Tesla is accelerating sustainable energy. This is a love of philanthropy. Right. SpaceX is trying to ensure the long-term survival of humanity with multi-planet species. This is love of humanity. Neuralink is...
Introducing...
I changed it. Once you press the button on mine, this one's called Crypto CEO on Volatility, Ownership and Regularization. The facts of cryptocurrency and facts of cryptocurrency markets, facts of crypto this, crypto that. Be rich, man. Put the power in the power with the power with the hour. Put it on, put it on, put it on. God. I fucking love you. I love you. I love you.
There's so much behind it. Like being shaped and guided by seasoned pros who've...
But recently it's been going through one of its largest dips. More than $1 trillion in value has been wiped out in the last 6 months. Crypto exchanges like Binance US, an offshoot of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, are $1 trillion.
Capitalgroup.com/ETFs. American funds distributed.
But recently it's been going through one of its largest dips. More than $1 trillion in value has been wiped out in the last 6 months. Market is often volatile, but recently it's been going through one of its largest dips. More than $1 trillion in value has been wiped out in the last 6 months. Crypto exchanges like Binance US, an offshoot of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, are seeing an increase in trading volume coming from institutional investors. But retail investors are still a significant and important part of the market. So how can the company keep those users safe in this volatile space? At the Future of Everything Festival this week, WSJ crypto editor Jenna Teleska spoke with Brian Schroeder, CEO of Binance US, about this issue. Here are highlights from their conversation.
Hello, welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Crypto, undeniably, if you talk to anybody, it is a volatile asset. You don't know when it's going to drop. It can drop all the time. It halved in a couple months ago. How do you feel like you need to communicate to, maybe folks who don't understand the volatility of the market? How do you even approach that?
Yeah, I think that education is one of the important pillars that we try and emphasize at Binance US. And then Binance globally as a brand has invested a lot in education, for example, in Binance Academy, and making sure that there's a lot of online tutorials and information sessions. And both companies will continue actually to make investments in this space over time, because it is an important part of this process, is educating people around, what crypto is, right? And what are the different projects mean, and how does it work?
One thing that's been in the news that we've been reporting on is, the conversation between, the SEC Gensler and Coinbase about how, unlike a stock, when you buy a stock, the stock is yours as a user. When you buy cryptocurrency and it's held by the exchange, it's something that isn't necessarily definitely yours if there's a hack, or if, let's say, the company goes bankrupt. You're just kind of a creditor in line. So, how are you guys thinking about that conversation?
Yeah, so I think that, again, it goes back to user choice. So if you're a user that wants to purchase, Bitcoin on the Binance US exchange and then take it offline to your ledger, or write it down on a sheet of paper, or do whatever you want, then that's totally your priority. And so we enable that. Mm-hmm. But to the extent that for ease of use and security and things like that you want to keep it custodied with us, then obviously we enable that as well. And so again, it goes back to user choice and making it easy for the user to choose what they want to do with their own crypto.
And do you think it's clear to users what the upside and downside of each of those options are? It's more difficult to access this way, but you can control what happens to it. Easier to access, but it's not in your hands.
Yeah, I think that the industry as a whole, going back to your point around education, can do a lot to kind of educate, especially new users, as they kind of come into the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. So I know there's a couple probes between Binance US and Binance, the parent company, with different
and on reports.
Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with
We're a compliance-first, very clear and consistent smart regulation. And I think that stablecoin is actually one of the biggest areas that it feels like there's general consensus in DC more so than any other aspect. And so I would suspect that they would actually, especially now, move forward with stablecoin regulation. And this is good for the U.S. from my perspective. So to the extent that the U.S. government can define what a USD-denominated stablecoin looks like, then that kind of becomes the global standard. And especially if it has the United States government blessing, I think there would be a flock to effectively safety, right? As the USD is kind of the reserve currency, you would kind of almost see that as the digital reserve currency as well.
It sounds like there will also be a responsibility there, too. If it's safe, it means that somebody is watching it.
Yeah, and so this is another reason why, we are very supportive of crypto.
I just like to say about Crypto CEO, Crypto CEO, Business International Computer Network. It'll work, it'll be good. Business high, low, the Wall Street numbers need to fly, math, this, that. Pretty people want to go shopping, window shopping, do the shopping, money in the wallet. Lady likes it. My ass licking pussy, fucker, you would do fucking out the pop. It's good, very good. So it's Crypto CEO, very nice. I love you. Now put a play, put it. Oh, the Australian, Australia, everything. Love you.
ABC News.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. Incoming Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says winning government is a big moment in his life and he hopes to change the country. Labor. ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. Incoming Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says winning government is a big moment in his life and he hopes to change the country. Labor is returning to government after nearly a decade in opposition, but it's not yet known if they'll have enough seats to form a majority. Speaking for the first time today, he's outlined his priorities for the first few weeks of the job, starting with heading to Japan for the Quad International Leaders Meeting. The South Korean car giant Hyundai says it plans to invest billions of dollars in the United States to strengthen collaboration in advanced technologies. The group says the investment, finalized during President Joe Biden's visit to Seoul, will be in areas including robotics. Labor is returning to government after nearly a decade in opposition, but it's not yet known if they'll have enough seats to form a majority. Speaking for the first time today, he's outlined his priorities for the first few weeks of the job, starting with heading to Japan for the Quad International Leaders Meeting. The South Korean car giant Hyundai says it plans to invest billions of dollars in the United States to strengthen collaboration in advanced technologies. The group says the investment, finalized during President Joe Biden's visit to Seoul, will be in areas including robotics, autonomous driving and artificial intelligence. Half of this funding will go towards a factory in the U.S. state of Georgia. President Biden has welcomed the announcement. At least 18 people have been killed in flooding in India's northeastern Assam state, with at least 800,000 people displaced from their homes. Swollen rivers have wreaked havoc, submerging houses, a fairground and destroying crops in 31 districts. Personnel from disaster response forces have been roped in to ferry people to safer ground and provide them with relief support, including food and medicine. And the electric guitar played by Kurt Cobain in the iconic Smells Like Teen Spirit music video in 1991 is up for auction for the first time. The blue left-handed 1969 Fender Mustang's already attracted an online bid of $2.8 million in the auction at the Hard Rock Cafe in New York. It's been on display in Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture for the past 12 years. ABC News.
ABC News.
Andrew Kalukas with the latest. The United States President Joe Biden has spoken with Australia's next Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to congratulate him on the election win. In a statement, the White House says the President made clear his intentions to work closely with the new Australian government. To Anthony Albanese.
ABC News.
Andrew Kalukas with the latest. The United States President Joe Biden has spoken with Australia's next Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to congratulate him on the election win. In a statement, the White House says the President made clear his intentions to work closely with the new Australian government to strengthen ties even further. And he expressed his appreciation for Mr Albanese's decision to travel to Tokyo to attend the Quad Summit with the leaders of the US, Japan and India. The President will meet Australia's 31st Prime Minister on Tuesday in Tokyo. Penny Wong, who will be the Foreign Minister, will also travel to Japan, and will take Labor's new Southeast Asia package.
Just like to say, what are they doing with the submarines, the nuclear submarines and the nuclear plant in Japan? Isn't it destroying the waters? Japan has a broken nuclear plant in the water or something. What happened with Japan? Nuclear killing the ocean, or is Japan alright with nuclear, or can they? What's Japan doing? What's the history? Where's the history? Japan. Something wrong with Japan, is it? What is it with Japan? China. Want war or not war? I love you. Do you want to marry me? You want to love me? I love you too. Thank you. Very good. That's the way I see it. Okay, listen and reply to Intermix Hector YouTube channel, please.
Which includes more funding for the Chi's decision to travel to Tokyo to attend the Quad Summit with the leaders of the US, Japan and India. The President will meet Australia's 31st Prime Minister on Tuesday in Tokyo. Penny Wong, who will be the Foreign Minister, will also travel to Japan and will take Labor's new Southeast Asia package, which includes more funding for the region. The outgoing Liberal for the Melbourne seat of Goldstein, Tim Wilson, says the election result is a reset for Australia. Mr Wilson has conceded defeat to the Teal Independent, Zoe Daniel, in what was once a safe Liberal electorate. Kooyong Independent Monique Ryan has outlined her agenda for working with the newly elected Labor government should she win the seat. The result in Kooyong is yet to be declared, but Dr Ryan is projected to take the seat from the incumbent, the Deputy Liberal leader Josh Frydenberg. Dr Ryan says she wants to see the immediate return of a Tamil family seeking asylum to their home in Billawheeler. She says she's also working on a plan to tackle climate change. The new parliament is likely to have at least 15 crossbenchers. The Greens have picked up 2 lower house seats in Queensland and are hopeful they can add a third with a victory in the seat of Brisbane. 3 of the party's senators have been re-elected.
ABC News.
Russia continues its attempt to gain territory in the eastern Luhansk region. The local governor says there's been a large influx of Russian forces, with shelling continuing night and day.
ABC News.
Andrew Kalupas with the latest. United States President Joe Biden has spoken to Australia's next Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, to congratulate him on the election win. In a statement, the White House says the President made it clear his intentions are to work closely with the new government to strengthen ties even further, and he expressed his appreciation.
It's not like important or whatever technology. You make technology, they make technology, waste technology, cryptocurrency, CIO. People are rich out there, very famous people, beautiful, nice news. YouTube, Intermix Hector YouTube channel. Love you.
For Mr Albanese's decision to travel to Tokyo,
you can't,
to attend Tuesday's Quad Summit with the leaders of the US, Japan and India. Penny Wong will also attend the meeting in Japan as Foreign Minister. She'll discuss a new package for Southeast Asia, including additional aid for the region. Labor has also flagged it wants to address the threat climate change poses in the Pacific. Mr Albanese and Senator Wong will be sworn in today, along with Jim Chalmers as Treasurer and Katie Gallagher as Finance Minister. Heavy fighting's been reported around the Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk as Russia continues its attempt to gain territory in the eastern Luhansk region. The local governor says there's been a large influx of Russian forces, with shelling continuing night and day. He says Ukrainian forces need long-range artillery to respond. Media correspondents say there's been an increase in artillery and airstrikes, as well as missile attacks. The Polish president has given a message of strong support for Ukraine during the first address in person by a foreign leader to the parliament in Kyiv since the Russian invasion. Andrzej Duda received a standing ovation as he declared that Ukrainians themselves could decide their future. Experts at the World Health Assembly are meeting in Geneva to discuss issues including monkeypox, a rare infection that's beginning to spread worldwide. The disease is usually unsettling, as well as missile attacks. The Polish president has given a message of strong support for Ukraine during the first address in person by a foreign leader to the parliament in Kyiv since the Russian invasion. Andrzej Duda received a standing ovation as he declared that Ukrainians themselves could decide their future. Experts at the World Health Assembly are meeting in Geneva to discuss issues including monkeypox, a rare infection that's beginning to spread worldwide. The disease is usually only found in parts of West and Central Africa, but it's now been detected in more than a dozen countries, including Australia and the US. ABC News.
ABC News.
Concern when he meets the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, giving ground would be a blow to the West, adding that only Ukraine has the right to decide its future. The Ukrainian government has said it won't agree to any ceasefire deal that hands over any of its territory. Russian forces have continued to shell the eastern cities of the Donbass region. ABC News.
So I've just arrived at an RS.
Comparison is current as at 31 December 2021. Other fees may apply. Factors other than fees should...
All right, I had to listen to this shit. Gotta listen to this. I'll knock you out. You say it's not God, whatever, cut, hexing. I'm angry now. I have to listen to this. Cut, this is well record, mate. This is Intermix, Hector. YouTube channel, you better listen to this. So I'll break through the window. I'm angry. Sorry, I love you. Sorry, good manners.
Also be considered. Option is mostly growth assets, which aims for higher returns but have greater risk. Consider if appropriate for you and read the PDS, TMD and more information available at rest.com.au before deciding to join or stay. Product issued by Retail Employees Superannuation Proprietary Limited.
The Monthly is Australia's only magazine dedicated to politics, culture and current affairs. Featuring award-winning essays, it publishes this country's leading writers and drives the national conversation. Subscribe now and read more of the essays and reporting that go into making 7am. Visit themonthly.com.au to subscribe to great reading.
Please welcome to the stage the man set to be the 31st Prime Minister of Australia.
Tonight, the Australian people have voted for change. I am humbled by this victory, and I'm honoured to be given the opportunity to serve as the 31st Prime Minister of Australia.
So, Karen, we've heard Scott Morrison concede, and we've now seen Anthony Albanese take to the stage and claim victory as Australia's 31st Prime Minister. Tell me what you thought of the speech.
I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was a well-crafted and well-delivered speech. I thought it was a speech with great heart, actually, and that was a real theme in the speech, that we can be a better country, that we can be our best selves.
News Express, fresh news, power news. God, I am Intermix, Hector, love family. Good food, please.
That we can be a nation of opportunity, great heart.
Australia's 31st Prime Minister. Tell me what you thought of the speech.
I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was a well-crafted and well-delivered speech. I thought it was a speech with great heart, actually, and that was a real theme in the speech, that we can be a better country, that we can be our best selves, that we can be a nation of opportunity for everyone. So I think there was heart and each that I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was a...
Seen Anthony Albanese take to the stage and claim victory as Australia's 31st Prime Minister. Tell me what you thought of the speech.
I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was a well-crafted and well-delivered speech. I thought it was a speech with great heart, actually, and that was a real theme in the speech, that we can be a better country, that we can be our best selves, that we can be a nation of opportunity for everyone. So I think there was heart and inclusion.
And on behalf of the Australian Labor Party, I commit to the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full.
And he opened the speech with a reference to the Uluru Statement from the Heart and a pledge to implement that in full, which I think was very important and says to Australia's independence, economic matters and the kind of community. You know, you look at the people who've been shocked tonight. There's a number of messages there. There's an anti-major party message which both the Liberal and Labor parties need to look at. There's a pro-climate action, pro-environment message that's really important that people are sending to political parties generally with the election of Teals and Greens. And I think that the Labor Party in particular is going to have to listen. And there's a message about listening to your community. You know, you look at the people who've been shocked defeats tonight. They are in particular important, the major party message which both the Liberal and Labor parties need to look at. There's a pro-climate action, pro-environment message that's really important that people are sending to political parties generally with the election of Teals and Greens. And I think that the Labor Party in particular is going to have to listen. And there's a message about listening to your community. You know, you look at the people who've been shocked defeats tonight. They are in circumstances where they weren't listening to their community, whatever that community is. And I really think there's a very strong message there from the Australian people. Don't take us for granted. We know what we think and we want you to listen and represent our views faithfully. And I think that's a real lesson for our democracy and our politics from this election result tonight.
The night is ending and everyone is starting to leave the hall. We've already packed up our gear and we're waiting up the front. But then I get word that Anthony Albanese's actually returned back to the hall. He's out there walking the floor and shaking hands with the party faithful who've stayed around. And so I go back in, and that's when I get the chance to ask Anthony Albanese one quick question.
Anthony, how are you feeling?
Hey.
How are you feeling? Does it sound good?
Okay, well, it's a big moment in my life, but it's also a big moment for Australia when the government changes, and I hope to implement the plans that I've put forward for a better future.
Excellent, great.
Bring the Australian Chamber Orchestra into your home with the magic of ACO Studio.
And Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles as Prime Minister.
.com.au.
Also in the news today, Anthony Albanese will be formally sworn in as Prime Minister today. Joining him will be the economic team of Treasurer Jim Chalmers and Katie Gallagher, along with Foreign Minister Penny Wong and Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles. Other ministers will be sworn in after the Labor caucus meets to decide on ministerial appointments in the next couple of weeks. And Liberal Senator Simon Birmingham has said the coalition must become stronger on climate action after their defeat. Birmingham is one of the few surviving senior moderates in the party, and he also told the ABC on Sunday that the party should run more female candidates in future to, quote, reflect the reality of modern Australia. I'm Ruby Jones. This is 7am. See you tomorrow.
Hey, fuck you. Oh, wow, whoop. Good manners, please. Whoop, oh, God. I had to do that. Oh, it's gone for a long time. How long? I'm dreaming. I'm red. Oh, my God. Dios mío. ¿Qué pasa, amigo? Pala. Question. Listen, reply. Question, please. God. How do you see it? What did you hear? What is the meaning of this? Where you at? God, this, that, for nothing can do what he can. He got to do. Very nice. Spotify, be party. Oh, well, very nice person. I love you. Listen and reply. How do you turn it off now? Please. Intermix Hector YouTube channel. Intermix Hector YouTube channel. Oopala. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Love you.